So I think you had said originally that you weren't sure if I could see the
Uh,
chat. Are we
yeah,
good now?
that means we're on.
All right, here we are. Hello.
We're off to a rolling start today with Anne Briggs. Anne of all trades is joining. I'm in Wisconsin. Anne is in scenic Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Yeah, and it is very scenic. I'm actually looking out my window at my cows as we speak.
And are they happily chewing their cud?
I wish that they were less happily chewing the building supplies for my school. But that's part of the chaos that led us here. 4.5 minutes late, even.
That's okay. We'll give them their. We're going to give them their fill in the next whatever that is, 53 and a half minutes, no matter what.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
for those of you that aren't aware, Anne Briggs is Anne of all trades, and she, I've talked about this a couple times in promoting this event, and Anne has her hands in so many different things, hence the name. Um, and I'm going to leave stuff out here, Anne, and you can jump in anytime. But woodworking, she's building a school, she's built musical instruments, she forges metal. She taught me how to do that. Um, Fixed a motorcycle, rebuilding an old, what year is your truck? 57?
Oh, 53,
53.
3100.
So Ann has got a lot of different stuff going on, which is cool. So let's Ann start with your background, like way back background is a little bit unusual because you mostly grew up overseas, right? And so
That's
just
right.
give us that kind of overview, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, my parents were missionaries. I grew up, we lived all over the place. And we also had a pretty unique community experience where we lived on this missions training campus that basically had people from all over the world that were all pursuing the same thing. So it was an actual campus. It was formerly a Air Force base, and so we literally lived in the middle of Montana, rural Montana, when we were in the States, and like knew deeply knew like all of our neighbors and everyone who was living around us and like all the kids that I went to school with and stuff like that. And the needs for the whole community were met from within the community as well. And so it very much was like a neighborhood from, the 1920s, 1930s, 1950s. And that pretty much ruined me for regular living for the rest of my life. That plus living abroad. And so when I ended up moving back to America, I moved from Taipei, Taiwan to Seattle, Washington almost 10 years ago now. But when I moved to Seattle, I thought that I wanted to, work in tech and work my way up the corporate ladder and get the finances that I needed to like buy my way out of the lack of financial resources that we had growing up and support my family and my parents as they got older and all that. But it turns out I was not built for sitting behind a computer screen. And it was really hard for me for lots of reasons to hold down a job in the tech industry. And so I started basically looking for what I could possibly do that would support me and support what I wanted to do and also, not kill me in the process. And
So
that
how
kind of
long
led me.
how long
Oh
did you
yeah, go ahead.
do how long did you do the traditional thing before then you said like, okay, this is not going to work for me. I got to cut out of this.
For 3 years. And although I will say, quite frankly, now knowing more about what the traditional thing looks like, having never seen it modeled before, I was never doing the actual real traditional thing. Uh, but yeah, I worked for 3 years, and then I was like, I had in my nights and weekends started building furniture and gardening, and I was like, this is the stuff that really gives me fulfillment and purpose. I want to do this all the time. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to be a furniture maker, and it's going to be great. It was not great. That furniture building gig did not last very long. It a lot of personal failings, as well as just a set of circumstances, did not leave me with a successful business. And the thing is, though, that I would take that risk again 1,000 times. And I would encourage others to do not quite the exact same thing I do, because I now have, experience and knowledge about what you shouldn't do. But I would encourage people to take risks, because especially when it comes to your career, and especially if you're young and don't have a lot of, people depending on you financially, which was the case back then, because I knew when I quit my job that I was not too good to do anything. So I would be able to find another job. I would be able to do anything else. If I had a bill that needed to get paid, like I was not too good to scrub toilets or, wash dishes or whatever it was going to take to do what I needed to do if things didn't work out.
So
And in fact, they did not.
let's
So I
grab a
went back to work.
let's grab a part of this that I think might be interesting to, because a lot of people, I get questions about this all the time, and you probably do too, where people are doing this thing today that they're not thrilled about, and they would like to do the kind of stuff you and I do. They would like to get out and be self-employed. They would like to. So if you could grab an advice thing or two for somebody who's in that position, what would that be?
Um, my number one piece of advice for people who are like, hey, I absolutely, like, I just want to do what you do, is I first am like, okay, quick correction. I think that you are saying that you want to do what you think that I'm doing based on what you're seeing on social media, but also almost no one actually wants to do all of the things that are involved in actually running a successful, or like not even just running, starting a successful business. Because if all you want is to have more time to work in your shop, or spend time in your garden, or whatever it is that you're thinking that your job is keeping you from doing, um, there it actually, I would just encourage people to kind of reframe their thinking a little bit, to find ways to make more time within what they're doing right now with a paying job and benefits and vacation and someone else taking responsibility for the feeding of their children and all of that stuff, and make more time for those things there, than to try to just like quit your job and build furniture the whole time. Because a huge part of why my furniture building business didn't really work out was because it wasn't just building furniture all the time. I had to learn how to market myself. I had to learn how to make a website. I had to answer emails. I had to prove to potential clients that like it was worth it to pay me more than what they could get furniture from IKEA
IKEA,
for,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah. I
all
knew
like
IKEA
I
was
mean,
going to get said.
yeah, like all that stuff. I mean, one of the things that really like tipped it over the edge for me, that I was like, I cannot build furniture and actually make a living and make this work and still keep my sanity, was this like horrible like argument exchange that I had with this potential client who like had like, wasted so much of my time up to this point, to then she had wanted drawings. She was like, I want a mahogany bookshelf, like all this stuff. And like I made the mistake of not saying, asking her what her budget was up front. But she was like, she said that she'd had custom furniture made before and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, well surely she knows, what she's going for. And then we'd been weeks through the email process, calls, all this stuff. And then she's like, well, yeah, I saw it for $40 at IKEA. So how much cheaper can you make it for me?
Yeah.
And I was like, a solid mahogany bookcase, dovetailed. Um, wow, what a phenomenal waste of so many hours of my life leading up to this point. But it wasn't a waste, because it was an important lesson to learn.
You learned something from it. So I'm going to hit a couple questions here. We're going to talk about the school later. So people are asking about the progress of that. So, but it's on our agenda. So we are going to get to that.
Good.
But Jess has asked, during one of your classes, you mentioned go-to books for personal and business growth. Can you remind us of what they are?
The
This is
first
probably a
book,
good time to slot it in.
yeah, no, the first book that I would really recommend if you are wanting to start your own business is The E-Myth by Richard Gerber. It sounds like it's the email myth, because E before anything sounds like it should be email. It's not. It's the Entrepreneurial Myth, and that is a fantastic resource because it talks about all the things that I was just saying, like the myth of someone who is has a creative passion that they want to pursue full time is that they will be able to just quit their job and pursue it. There is so much more involved in creating a business that runs well and a business that actually can continue to run if you, the entrepreneur and talent and everything else, ever gets hurt or gets sick or wants to take a vacation or anything else. And so that's a great one. Another just absolutely fantastic business book is the Personal Mba. It is very fat, but very loaded with good information. It's like literally everything that you'd need if you wanted to get an MBA, but it also says don't waste your time getting an MBA.
So
Waste your time making mistakes and you know not getting yourself in $100,000 of debt in the process.
Um, all right. So to go back to the advice thing. So one, I think to distill it down is get a dose of reality on like instead of, so a friend of mine owns a resort in northern Wisconsin, and she wrote this very tongue in cheek book called I'm Living Your Dream. So it's tongue in cheek in that, like, what everybody sees when they come to the resort is here's this cool cabin and it's on a lake, and this cool couple gets to live here all the time and run this. And so the book is about, and as soon as you leave, we're fixing the toilet, and then we're doing the shingling, and then we're in it. So it's all of the background stuff that it takes to live the dream on the resort. So, in a
Yeah,
similar vein, I think what you're saying is do enough research, do the due diligence to know what you're talking about, that all of the background stuff it takes, because none of us are just spending a day in our shop happily building stuff. There's so much background stuff that goes with that to run the business. Sound
absolutely.
right? Okay.
Another, oh, sorry,
But that
one
be,
more.
go
Oh,
ahead,
no,
hit it.
you go ahead
No,
then.
hit it.
This is what happens when you're on Zoom instead of real life. I wish we were just sitting. I mean, for so many reasons, George. I wish you could come and visit, which hopefully
Well,
you do soon.
we can
Uh,
talk about that still, so that's going to happen. But yeah,
Good.
anyway,
You asked about personal development too. One of a great book that is both personal and business related that I highly recommend is Essentialism by Greg Mckinnon. And that one is absolutely important if you're going to try to start a business, whether it's going to be your full-time pursuit or not, but it's also pretty essential for basic just life. It helps you to reframe your thinking about what's actually important, what's actually essential in life, helps you to actually identify those things for yourself so that you can then prioritize your time accordingly. And I think
so,
that that's one of the hardest things for people, especially in this day and age, to do is to actually, you know, we're driven by all of this stimuli in our life instead of choosing the direction you want, like we want to drive, and then driving that way.
um, so here's what I'm for people watching. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get these book titles and authors from Anne, and then in the chat roll, I'm pointing to my other monitor, which does you no other good. But in the chat roll that's on WWGOA.com below this live stream, I'll go back and I'll put those into the chat roll so that it'll be there as a resource if you want to find it. And I'll hopefully get to that in the next like day. I'll get that stuff listed.
Perfect. I'm taking notes on what I said then too, so I can make sure I help you deliver that.
And we get the same when because people will go back and watch the video. You know how that goes.
Perfect.
I think you're aware of that. Um,
Glorious.
so so that's the advice thing. That's the background thing. And then today you have a lot of facets to what you're doing. And instead of me lining that out, um, tell us like not. I mean, it's revenue streams, but it's also just your life. So what you've got the YouTube channel and the farm and the school, and so tell us about that stuff.
About how I make my
Well,
business work or
not
my
about how
life
you
work.
make your money. I
Yeah.
don't know, just like your day. I mean, you've got you you are the Renaissance woman, I think, of like, well, because you're not only doing woodworking, you also I'm having a hard time articulating what I know about you. So just tell us, it's not from a revenue stream perspective, but just what it is that you do, I guess, as Anne of all trades, and you have this also this look at stuff, uh, revisiting of a more traditional, like the timber frame building that we've talked about and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
give us that synopsis in 10 words.
Oh, 10 words? Wow, you're going to send
No,
me into an existential crisis here.
and not in Mandarin.
In
Because
English,
we
I'll
haven't mentioned that yet either, that you speak Mandarin. But
perfect. Well, in English, the basic premise what I do as Anne of all trades is Anne of all trades started actually kind of as a joke. Someone who I really looked up to and admired told me that if I would continued on the trajectory that I was on, I was never going to be good at anything or amount to anything either. And so I was like, well, that stings a little, but I was like, okay, well, a little tongue in cheek, I was like, I'm going to become Anne of all trades and I am going to get it good at everything. And I'm going to prove you so wrong. It's not even funny. I'm a little stubborn. I don't know if this comes across in social media at all, but I'm a very, very stubborn person. And I also don't like being told that I can't do things. In fact, one of the biggest motivators in my entire life is being told that I can't do things. I think part of what, part of why I do so many things that are not traditionally female driven endeavors are because people told me that I couldn't when I was younger because I was a girl. And so now here I am doing them and I am a girl. It's amazing. Um, but sorry, that was a side note there. But yeah, I do blacksmithing and woodworking, and I am working on building up a farm that has infrastructure enough that it can I mean, with a little guidance from me, support itself financially and also just add a lot of positive inputs into my life. I really, being self employed, it's really hard for me to have the structure in my day that I need or to create that structure without outside stimuli. And so it started with having a bunny that I needed to feed. And then it was like, okay, well, bunnies don't actually eat. You can get like an automatic feeder, and that you can fill up their water dish, and they don't probably need anything for like 3 days. And I was like, okay, well that doesn't help me to get up at 5 in the morning and start my day. So then I was like, okay, well I'll get some chickens, but once again, the margins there were too much, and so I was like, okay, well I'll start milking a goat. And milking has I've been milking an animal 1 to 2 times a day every single day for the last uh, 7 years, maybe. And so that has put a lot of the routine that I needed into my life. I also love gardening. Mostly, I love gardening because I love the initial huge before and after things, like the transformation of a space. And then I also love seeing things like seeds sprout. And I love the picking and the eating part, but I don't like any of the other stuff in between. So I studied permaculture and basically looking at the forest and how the forest takes care of itself and tried to emulate as much of that as possible in my garden so that my garden can take care of itself. So all I have to do is toss some seeds in there every once in a while and then come back and see them when they're ready, which sometimes works amazing and sometimes does not. But yeah, so that is that. And then I'm really interested in woodworking, and woodworking has led me into blacksmithing because the part of woodworking that I really like is hand tools and trying to turn a something into something like something completely different using just the power of your uh, the power of your body and the strength of your mind to do so is a pretty incredible thing. And because I love hand tools, that led me into blacksmithing because I was like, oh wow, what if I could make my own hand tools? That was very exciting. So I actually, as a couple of years ago, I was offered the opportunity to run the woodworking school at Pratt Fine Arts Center, which was
back in Seattle.
back in Seattle. It was a multidisciplinary craft school slash community workspace, and so they had an incredibly well equipped blacksmithing shop, fabrication studio, drawing, painting, glass blowing, like all that stuff. And I was like, for someone like me who loves learning new things and being involved in a community of people who are going to challenge you and help you grow and be better, it was the most amazing thing that could have ever happened to me. And so I took the job as wood studio manager, uh, with the caveat that I would be able to take all of the blacksmithing classes that I wanted. So I then, was in blacksmithing classes 2 or 3 nights a week for the next 3 years. And that gave me the equipment and knowledge that I needed to be able to start making my own hand tools for woodworking. And that was really, really fun.
So,
Yeah.
so going back to like, so you had your day job that you weren't happy with, and then you started the furniture thing that didn't go great. But
Yep.
then, I mean, we missed a bridge here somewhere. I mean, or you just kept
Yes.
plugging away, like,
Oh,
because
I went and got another job, and then I was working after I realized that I wasn't going to make it as a furniture maker in that capacity or that realm. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and get another job. So I got like a part-time job. I think working at a coffee shop. Like I said, I was willing to do whatever. I was working at a coffee shop, and then during that time, I was like, okay, well, I should actually like I have a business degree. I should use it. So I started looking for stuff in the tech industry. I worked for a website called Zulily for a while. And that was when, like, it was while I was working at Zulily that I was like, oh my gosh, I like genuinely cannot do this. I have to find a different way and a different path. I got I was like, first of all, the biggest problem there was that I was commuting 2 hours and also working like 10-hour days. So that was not great. And so I was like, okay, I need to find something closer to home. I ended up working at a company that, like, working 32 hours a week that was only 15 minutes away from my house. And so that gave me the money that I needed to pay my bills and gave me the time freedom that I needed to be able to build my business on the side. And that's what I was doing when I was offered the job at Pratt. And then I worked at Pratt for 3 years and then continued to build the skills. And like Pratt was a dream situation for me because it required maybe only 12 to 20 hours of computer work a week. But still, I mean, I was getting paid at work to also like attend woodworking classes and to teach woodworking classes and to do all these other things that helped develop me as a craftsperson, if you want to call me that, but also helped me to have the content I needed to create to do like to start building an online content centered business, which is what I ended up doing. And I worked at Pratt for 3 years while I built that content centered business. Even though I was working full time at Pratt and doing all the other classes and everything else, I was also Dave Ramsey's style saving, like saving a ton of money, living extremely frugally, and basically doing nothing but going to work, working and learning. And most of the time, work was really fun. And then I was coming home and working another 8+ hour day building my online business as well. And then on January 1st of 2018, I quit my job. And that was after I had had a very fortuitous meeting with our mutual friend, April Wilkerson, and realized she kind of gave me some of the missing pieces that I needed as far as like a mental model of what it would look like to be able to scale a business online. And 6 months later, yeah, it was January 1st, 2018, and I quit my job and I haven't looked back since.
so I think this is an important lesson out of this for people who want to go some self-employment route, is that I think everybody I know has either had your this was what I did. You're working a day job, and the transition toward the self-employment thing is a side hustle. And I hate to even say side hustle because, like you said, it's still another. It's like another job. It's not really a side hustle, but if you want that badly enough, you're going to go in that direction. And it's the day job is subsidizing your life to the point where it opens you up to be able to grow the side hustle until somewhere those roads converge, and you can leave one
Yes.
behind. You can leave the day job behind and let the side hustle has become the day job. Um, and I
It's
think
really, really important that people understand that because I think for almost everyone that says like, "Oh my gosh, I would kill to do what you do," and I was like, "Yeah, I killed myself to be able to do what I do for 5 years before it actually became a reality." And really, like, I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years now, but I mean, 5 years I was doing this on top of whatever else I was doing, and I while I do not really recommend that everyone just quit their job and do what they're passionate about. There is like a lot of people, it's really hard to either have the emotional permission or be able to prioritize the time to be able to spend on something that they don't know is going to create income. Like if you have kids and other responsibilities that require a huge portion of your time, how do you justify time in the shop and all that stuff? And what I have to say for those people is that yeah, it's very possible to start a side hustle, and you absolutely should. My business started with me, taking 3 weekends to build a rabbit cage that I like for a potential client that only made me $150 or whatever. But that $150 got put towards tools that I could then use to get better at my craft, to then build my business. And it like that kind of stuff was going on for 5 years before I was ever in a position to quit my job, in addition to getting out of debt, budgeting, living extremely frugally, all that stuff
Yeah.
too.
So let me hit a couple of questions. So it's very nice. So Jennifer has apparently was really, really listening, and she cited all of the books that you mentioned, and she even found the one that I talked about from this woman I went to high school with. So that's pretty cool. So those are
Amazing.
yeah. So those are in the chat roll on WWGOA.com under the live. So somebody did ask, did the Small Business Administration give you, I don't know if they're thinking of maybe like SCORE. I don't know if SCORE even exists anymore, but there used to be these aspects of the Fed where you could get small business advice. Is that something that you took any advantage of or used or anything?
I This is new information to me.
Okay, so
Maybe
that would
I
be a
wish I'd
no.
had some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could say when I was getting started, I had somebody from SCORE came to my shop. So the premise with that was it was something it's an acronym, and retired is the R, but it was people
Okay.
from business who have now retired, and they'll come and talk to you. And this person came to my shop, and I had 11 billion questions. Um, and the answers were so out of date and this was in 1998, so the
Oh
internet
no.
wasn't where we are today, but even then the internet was a thing. And the advice I got from that person was so out of date with where we were. And I don't mean like if SCORE still exists, I don't mean to I've not used it
Underscore it.
since. You're correct. Very good. I missed that. Very good. um, I don't mean to downplay it, and I'm sure a lot of it is a function of who you get on your team when you're doing that. But it didn't work for me at all. It was actually really bad advice. And then
What a
another,
glowing advertisement.
yeah, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Not everything shakes out.
It's all
Um,
right.
and somebody else asked, "How about them spoons?" So you do have kind of it's there's no real question here, but it's just you clearly have a reputation as a spoon carver, and as evidenced in part by the stuff behind your head. So
Yeah, that's actually a really funny one. And I'll just clear, like, it is, ha, did I ever have any intentions of becoming a spoon carver? No. Do I even like spoon carving? Yes, but only because of the thing that the thing that it serves, the thing that it does to serve me, I guess. And more than that, it's like it's not that it serves me even at all, because I actually, even more than just spoon carving, I actually, this is the case about woodworking and a lot of other things. It's if you take the people and the purpose out of any of this stuff, like I would never have been, and never have been a person who just goes into my shop. Just like, I don't want to escape my family to go in the shop. I don't want to do all these things just to be able to go in my shop. I'm not the kind of person that's like going to just block off time just so I can go in my shop and polish my tools or whatever else. Some people seem to do it. Not that I'm like knocking that. That's awesome if that's your thing, but that was never the thing for me. For me, woodworking and all of this other stuff kind of became the vehicle that I saw taking me where I wanted to go. So yes, I am. Oh, my headphones possibly died. Can you still hear me?
what?
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, good. All right. They're like yeah, okay. So if the other one dies, I might have to fix something. But anyway, uh, the woodworking was the vehicle that was going to take me where I wanted to go, which is where I want to go is having the opportunity to build community around a shared passion and sharing information about disappearing life skills. And so spoon carving came out of like this at the start of the pandemic. Um, I hadn't built my woodworking school yet. And I also didn't have like all my power tools. Well, first of all, I had sold a lot of my power tools to pay for the move here to Nashville. And whatever I still did have were all in storage, so I didn't have access to them. And I put together this little woodworking shop that I'm sitting in right now, but it also had to be an office where three people are regularly working together and using computers and things like that. So it's not like a wood shop where you can just generate a whole bunch of dust. And one of the people that I had just hired to work with me was Josh Nava, and we had met several years prior, 6 years prior, because of a project that he was doing on Instagram called 365 Spoons. And it was where he's carved a spoon every single day throughout a year to as basically a personal challenge and a form of accountability to grow in a craft and to overcome some learning difficulties and personal challenges that he had himself. And I saw that happening, saw how he was using Instagram as the same way that I was using Instagram as a personal accountability tool to do something and then to talk about it every day. And I really appreciated that. So I was like, hey, we should be friends. And then he's like, oh, yeah, we should. But also, you should actually be really good friends with my wife. He introduced me to Deb, his wife, and we became very close friends, so much so that we wanted to move across the country so that we could be closer to one another. And then Josh had he had a career change right before we moved here. And it turns out that like it was the perfect opportunity for us to start working together, even though we had not intended to. So all of a sudden, you had two people who had connected 6 years ago over spoon carving, who couldn't make a lot of sawdust and could only make shavings, who didn't have a whole lot of money or time and no power tools, and still wanted to teach people things that they could learn without a big shop full of tools and anything else. And so our spoon carving classes manifested out of that, wanting to give people something to do during the pandemic with tools that they could affordably get and use safely in their apartment or wherever else so that they didn't have to have a huge shop full of tools. And
So
so
for
then we've
your,
been using, oh, sorry, good.
oh, I'm gonna create your future book for you, which is well, it's a little bit like Trent Presler's canoe book. You know, there's the spoon is this whole metaphor for this, starting with this rough blank, and then from that creating this thing. Um, somebody has said, I made my first spoon watching Anne, that would be you, and learned the safe way to carve, and I thank her for that. So that's cool. Good, kudos to you. And then Steve asked, well, he wrote Milk Dude, but I'm pretty confident it's Milk Dud.
Milk
And,
Dud.
and how is the rest of the farm doing?
Milk Dud is doing fantastic. In case you didn't hear the good news that was initially terrifying but turned out good, Milk Dud is in fact a dud, not a dude. And she accidentally got pregnant and had the largest baby of all my goats this year, which nearly killed me. But she is doing great. And she is still very much a pain in the tushy and very entitled and very selfish and very cute. And in fact, if I were to open my door, it's very possible she would walk right in and jump up on the workbench and poop on the computer just because she could. The rest of the farm is also doing great, and we actually just got some alpacas, which are standing outside my door as we speak. It's very cute, and now we have. I mean, the farm has expanded exponentially since we moved here from Seattle because A, we have more land to support it, and B, my goals for again, making the farm itself a more sustainable business and more of a way that I can justify spending my time has definitely occurred here.
So when I do this, it's because I'm looking at questions over here. I'm not ignoring you. Well, I am a little bit.
Okay, I'm texting other people while I'm sitting here, just like No, I'm just
What is
kidding.
this
That's
like?
fine.
Do you think this is a Zoom call? Come on. Um, let's go back to the school because people who are following you have seen the building went up and they saw, but people are asking about progress on the building. So let's do, where's the building at? Can you project kind of a completion date? But then give us to, I know you don't want to just do woodworking there. You want to have a lot of different, you want to make butter there. You want to have a
Yeah.
lot of different, you're yearning to churn there at the school. So, um, give, it never stops. So give us the school update, synopsis, plan, including putting siding on. I think is what we're going to do. So
I think so. Yeah. So the school build is going amazingly well. For those who don't know, I'm building a craft school here. That was part of the initial plan when I was moving to Nashville because this property was perfect in every way except that it didn't have a shop. And I mean, kind of going off of what I was saying earlier about without the things that without the shop or without the vehicle to move these things forward, I really could take or leave the tools. And so instead of just when I was faced with having to either like build my own shop, I was like, well, I don't want to just build a shop for me. I want to build a place for the community, a place that would support my local community here, that would support potential teachers, that would provide me with an opportunity to give back to the many people who have invested in me to get me to this point. All of those things, not to mention have a place for people to gather, but most importantly to build a place from the ground up, because up to this point I've only ever worked in shared spaces or made shops that are out of
garages or
well, not just garages but like condemned buildings. So like if you don't really have a lot of you've got what you've got and you have to make it work. And so from this place I was like, I'm going to design it from the ground up. And not only do I want to make a place where we can have in-person classes, for small classes and not like constantly or anything, but I also wanted to make a place that we could film film all of the classes, like so in a studio setting that would then provide the information um, inexpensively and easily accessible to people far beyond who I could just have come here. And so, yeah, it's going to have eventually it's going to have an auto body shop, a metal machining, a fabrication, blacksmithing. It'll have a commercial kitchen, a power tool woodworking shop, a hand tool woodworking shop, and we'll probably have some 3D printing and CNCs and all of that stuff will all happen. It's that commercial kitchen is right next to where we'll have, or well, we already have the garden and a wood fired oven. And so we can do farm to table dinners. There's a space in it that we can have, square dances for the community and other things like that. So it's going to be a really cool place once it actually gets done. And while we were flummoxed in a very large way by the pandemic and everything that that brought along with it. And we had to shut down building in December. Right before we shut down, a local builder sent his crew of guys out at cost to help me get a roof on this thing, and like literally for a tiny fraction of what we'd been quoted. And then he made the offer that, the next time his guys had free time between their jobs or whatever at cost again, I could have them come out. So we didn't do anything on the build. Like after the roof got done and everything was actually safely under cover for the rainy season, which was the only thing that absolutely had to happen to protect the financial investment that I had in the supplies and stuff. We just stopped working on it till 2 weeks ago. And then I got a call and he was like, hey, my guys are going to come out. We're going to frame it up so that we can get the building to where you can work on it from now on. And so they did. And it is, I keep looking at it, but you guys can't see it, but it's right back there. But it's absolutely incredible. They framed in the second story yesterday. And I walked up it this morning for the first time and was basically in tears because, yeah, I mean, just I just was thinking about like the long, hot, sweaty summer that it was trying to get those 1,800-pound posts set with 3 people and no equipment. It was an ocean nightmare, but it worked and no one got hurt and we're all still
And
okay. And
you only accidentally found one water line.
yeah, exactly. That's true. And funnily enough, it was on the very last post, believe it or not. Yeah, there was like, I think there's 48 posts and it was on the very last one.
Do you have a
Um,
target opening date for the school, or is it still too hard to project completion at this point?
It's still too hard to project. I mean, we're figuring out right now what we need to do to get the electrical in. And in the event that we will be able to get the electrical in sooner than later, we might be able to start doing stuff, before the building is completely finished, which would mean that we could start soonish, within the next 3 or 4 months or so. But I should actually say too that only half of the building is done. The other half of the building is still just posts. But the half that has like, that will provide us what we need to be able to get started is fully dried in, has the plywood sheathing up, and is framed on the inside. And soon we'll have windows. In fact, I think next week, early next week, it'll have windows and stuff
How many
and
how
doors
many how many square feet?
are currently available.
Well, no,
Um,
when you're done. And
5,600, I think.
yeah, that's great. You just had to go bigger than my shop, didn't you?
Yes,
Didn't
yes,
know it
something
was
like
a
that.
competition
Actually,
till
I
right
don't even.
now.
I that might not even be correct. It's been
That's
so
pretty
long
big.
since I've looked at the plans right now that I might be slightly off there.
All right.
But
Well, we
it
want.
but it's I mean with the porches and the second story and all that stuff, it's huge.
All right. And what about? And sorry to be out of date on this, but you were doing online stuff now, right? Is that still happening?
We when we shut down the build, it was for financial reasons. And the our kind of stop our goal was always, like I said, to create like online classes and things that people could take, but to generate the money that we needed to pay for the next phase of the building, we kind of had to just like figure out what we could do right now instead of waiting until, which was the original plan. And so we just figured out how to do classes on Zoom, and we came up with some class curriculum, which, by the way, like pretty much 99% of all good things that came out of like the classes that we're able to offer in the pandemic are thanks to Josh Nava, my business partner, uh, who, yeah, busted his butt to figure out like what equipment we needed, how to set it up. He, even like this set behind me, like oh yeah, actually, I drew all that messy stuff that you're seeing right there. I drew that, and then all the nice stuff he drew. Yeah, he has made things happen, um, in the interim better than I possibly could have by myself. But anyway,
So
so all that to say that we are offering online classes right now. However, I think we have like maybe 6 spots left across all the classes that we've been teaching, in the month of April, and then for the month of May, we're taking the month off of doing any live classes, and then possibly in June we will restart, but in a very very different manner because lately we've been doing like small classes with a limited class size so that we can like interact with people and really nail down our curriculum and try to make it as good as we possibly can, um, and get like as much feedback as we can. But moving forward, like the point of doing that was a big time expense for us because it means that we're teaching 5 2-hour classes a week, and that's on top of everything else that we were already doing. And it's not just the classes, but it's also the class prep. We think it's really important that people have a good experience, but also that we keep things affordable. So we were prepping spoon blanks for everyone ourselves out of wood that we went out. So it was like just
yeah,
a huge headache. But like again, knowing that there's even people here that have taken that class and had that experience, like, and it was a positive one, like makes it all definitely worth it. And yeah, it got us like the finances that we needed for the very short term to get to this step that we're currently at, where I can now take the month of May off and actually focus on working on the building, and do some of that work myself and, offset the cost of having other people here doing that stuff as well.
So come June, and we won't hold you to this either, what topics can people probably look for in the online classes?
Um,
So
we
spoon carving.
Yeah, definitely spoon carving. But here's the thing about spoon carving. Again, I said earlier that it's a good vehicle. What we teach through spoon carving is actually everyone who came to Pratt, even because I've been teaching spoon carving for many, many, many moons. But even back at Pratt, anyone that wanted to learn how to build furniture, I told them, okay, great, learn how to carve a spoon first, because you're going to learn how to think three-dimensionally. You're going to learn aspects of design and proportion. You're going to learn how to safely use a sharp object. You're going to learn about wood grain, which is super important if you want to build furniture that lasts. You're going to learn about wood movement. You're going to learn about where in the tree you want to get your stuff from, like all of these other things that come from spoon carving. And that's the kind of stuff that we've built into our spoon carving classes. So honestly, like I said, it's not even spoon carving that I really care about, but I do care about the topics that are within that stuff. So even if you're not a spoon carver, you should take a spoon carving class. Not necessarily from us, but I'd love it if you did. But yeah, so there will be spoon carving material, sharpening. Like we're basically trying to think about the basic skills that build on the basic skills that people kind of take for granted or maybe miss in the beginning steps in their woodworking journey. We are working on a small seating implement. We're not going to say what it is, but we're working on a course about that, something that you might sit on. We are also working on some farming courses. And so, like, actually, we already have one of them done, and it's launching this week on using raw milk, which again was a secret way of teaching other things that I was very excited about teaching about through the vehicle of using raw milk. And so, in that, there's making butter and making cheese, but also just like basic principles about how to use your food without waste, how to think about the meals that you're making, how to do in kind of like a holistic way as far as like making things, using every single piece of things so that it's more affordable, but also like thinking about meal prep and thinking about things in advance or doing things all at the same time. So time management when it comes to cooking your food. There's a whole lot of stuff in there, but yeah, so that's the raw milk course that teaches that sneaks those lessons into making butter, making cheese. I make mozzarella sticks, I think, at one point in there. That also applies to pizza making because we do a farm to table pizza situation here on the farm quite often.
And with
But yeah.
let's so one with the spoon class, I think you and I have the same approach to teaching, which is it's process oriented, not project oriented. So
Yeah,
we're building this thing, but I don't really care what the thing is. It's a means to an end to get these other points across. And
absolutely.
when somebody does that with you, you're all zooming together and they're carving a spoon.
Hmm.
They're not just watching you do this thing.
Yeah,
It's interactive as much as it can be through the web, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think making YouTube videos for 5 years has really, well, I love the opportunities that it presents and the community that it's helped me build. One thing that I don't love about YouTube is like I'm not doing anything that I'm doing to try to draw attention to myself. Um, it's awesome if I'm if watching my videos brings you in some way to closer towards something that you want to do. And so the thing that I don't love about YouTube is that generally speaking, it's something that people do, on Saturday mornings. They sit and they watch their YouTube videos or whenever it is that you do it. And 12 minutes isn't long enough to actually learn anything because you might like see how something is done and get like familiar with the subject matter. But if you then go in, like just having only watched that 12-minute video, if then you go into your own shop and try to replicate that same project without a huge skill set of your own already in place, you're going to run into all kinds of problems and real world issues that, you know, didn't seem to be so apparent when you like when everything looked super easy because it happened, the whole thing happened in 12
Yeah.
minutes. And I really love the aspect of teaching people as opposed to showing people. And that is one thing that I do really love about Zoom, because I'm literally watching them and like answering their questions in real time. And the online courses that we're going to do, while we might not be in person while you're learning the lessons, we will absolutely be in person helping you through your like the issues and the challenges that you run up against. And so it what we're trying to do is basically take away our need to say the same 50 things and share the same 50 pieces of information over and over and over and over again, and instead have 50 people watch that, then come to the after hours or after school or whatever you want to call it, and be like, okay, I did that and I practiced that, and now these are the questions that I have, and then we can actually help them answer it and help them get further on their journey. And so that's what I'm very excited about that aspect as well.
So I think we're both on the same page with this too. So if they can, when they can come to the school and do hands-on in the hierarchy here, that's number one. If they can interactively Zoom or whatever platform is, that's a number two. But then, I mean, not that YouTube is a bad thing, but it's somewhere down the list on stuff. So hit me with this last thing, which is where will people find these classes? And then if you want to think, I'm going to send you for your mandolin in a second. So if
Okay.
you're composing an answer in your head, um, whatever sequence you want to do here.
Okay, well, you can find all of our classes and eventually our courses too on the schoolofalltrades.com. You can find me anywhere on the internet, Anne of All Trades. If you can't find me on the internet, you need a new browser. And oh, my alpaca is so cute. Now I'll go get my mandolin. It's
All right.
literally right here. So
And then is this a mandolin, the mandolin you made?
it sure is.
All right. So this is
Oh, and
another
it's
cool
so out
thing
of
Anna's
tune.
done. So Katie is behind the boards here, making sure that we do what we're supposed to do. And she's also, while Anne is tuning, one of the things Katie's just put up is a note that for WWGOA, National Woodworking Month, we've put together a series of beginner level videos, and Katie's got that link up in the chat roll. It's on YouTube and it's also on GOA and it's on Facebook too. Katie, is it there? Yeah, so she's got it on the Facebook stream as well. So have a look at that. And then Katie, I guess once Ann starts playing and you want to punch us out with bumper music, you can shut us down whenever you're ready. Are you playing now, Ann? Is this the song?
This is it.
Yeah,
Isn't it
cool.
amazing?
Yeah, that's really talented.
I should have tuned this prior to being here. It's a very volatile season for keeping things in tune in Tennessee right now.
Yeah, one of my more favorite guitars that I usually have here in the shop cracked in the soundboard over winter because it was excessively dry in here. So it's but it is a very interesting wood thing is that now it's that crack is almost closed again now that we're in spring and the rainy season here in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
So
I
it
have a guitar that's regularly cracking and uncracking, and I'm like, well, sometimes it just has more resonance than others.
yeah.
I'm sorry, this is horrible. Tell us a good story while I do this.
So there's the time we worked on Anne's little house in Seattle. No one died. Um, that's always
That's
a good
always
thing.
a highlight of all my
Yeah.
projects, is if no one dies.
Trying to think of what else. I don't know. You're almost there. Are you there?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's probably not going to be like amazing over the internet anyway, so
So I'm going to say while Anne is doing this, I'm going to say to Anne, thanks very much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. And I can't wait to
oh,
get to Nashville and see your shop in Tennessee. Um, And then, like I said, Anne is going to just play us out of this. You want to throw any final words out, Anne, before you start playing?
I thank you so much for being here. It means the world that whenever anyone takes time out of their busy lives to hang out with us, it's absolutely awesome. So I appreciate you all being here, and I'm sorry about the still out of tune mandolin, but I'm just gonna play. Oh my gosh, my alpaca is fogging up the glass. It is so cute. Okay. Anyway,
Good fences make good neighbors, you know.
that's true. I don't have any good fences, and I
No,
have
I
a
know you don't.
mile's worth of fence that we need to make together, George. So come over here and let's do it.
All right, hit it, Anne, and we'll see you later.